At the edge of the known world, where the eye meets the unknown, a mountain of legend rises, bathed in radiance and mystery. This is Mount Kunlun, the mythical peak from ancient Chinese chronicles, revered as the cosmic axis of the world and the abode of immortal divinities. Its dizzying summits appear suspended between earth and sky, while the mountain's base pierces deep into the heart of the earth, like a pillar supporting the vault of heaven. Golden mists swirl around its peaks, and the echoes of the winds carry ancient whispers, enhancing the aura of grandeur and enigma that has shrouded this place since time immemorial. The legend of Mount Kunlun has survived millennia, resonating in the soul of Chinese civilization. We embark on an epic journey through the mists of time to explore the origin of this mystical paradise, the glory of its golden age, and the riddles of its downfall. Prepare to step into a world of myth and splendor, from its shrouded genesis to the tales of the immortals who dwelled there, and finally to its disappearance into the twilight of legends. Kunlun beckons us to unravel its secrets with hearts full of wonder and reverence. In ancient Chinese tradition, Kunlun shines as a beacon of origins. Its earliest mentions appear in foundational myths and early texts. For instance, it is said that Fu Xi and Nuwa, the progenitors of humanity, were joined in marriage on Mount Kunlun after a great flood devastated the world, in order to repopulate the earth with the blessing of the gods. To the people of antiquity, this sacred mountain was considered the cradle of their civilization and the source of the first river of the land, the Yellow River. Indeed, legends claim that from Kunlun flowed the world's rivers. Besides the Yellow River, three other mythical streams, the Red, the Black, and the Blue, Yangtze, all sprang from this magic mountain, coursing toward the four corners of the earth. The narration of Kunlun goes back thousands of years. Archaeologists have unearthed oracle bone and bronze inscriptions from the Shang and Zhou dynasties, 16th to the 3rd centuries BC, showing that people of those eras worshipped this mountain. During the Qin dynasty, 221 to 206 BC, the first imperial dynasty, the state's cosmological ideology cast heaven and earth as inhabited by deities, and Mount Kunlun became a symbol of the emperor, meant to unify the empire under a common sacred axis. Emperors presented themselves as mediators between heaven and earth, linked to Kunlun, the pillar of the world, to legitimize their rule. Thus, the myth took on a political value, making the people feel part of a unified whole under the cosmic umbrella of the mountain. Throughout history, numerous leaders and legendary heroes have been associated with Kunlun. King Mu of the Zhou dynasty, about 976 to 922 BC, is said, in mythic annals, to have journeyed to the very end of the known world to reach Mount Kunlun. Legend tells that upon arriving there with his 8 enchanted horses, Mu was awestruck by a splendid palace made of jade belonging to the mythical Yellow Emperor, Huangdi. On that fabulous journey, the king met none other than the Queen Mother of the West, the immortal sovereign of Kunlun, seeking the secret of eternal life. Although King Mu did not succeed in obtaining immortality and returned to the land of mortals, his story illustrates the prestige this mountain held in the collective imagination. Similarly, it is said that the legendary Yu the Great, founder of the Xia dynasty, received on Kunlun the essential teachings of governance from the Queen Mother herself, who bestowed upon him divine legitimacy and the secrets of wise rule. These semi-mythical accounts show how ancient society integrated Kunlun into its own history, seeing it as a guarantor of the mandate of heaven and world order. As cultures and beliefs evolved, so did the portrayal of the mountain in the collective mind. Initially surrounded by the aura of a wild, mysterious territory, Kunlun was gradually idealized as a heavenly paradise. The influence of Daoism, with its doctrine of immortality and ascetic retreats, transformed the mountain's image. From a possibly perilous frontier of the world, it became a realm of peace and eternal life. Some writings suggest that, with the syncretism of various traditions, a symbolic opposition crystallized between an eastern paradise, identified with the mythical island of Penglai, and a western paradise, embodied by Mount Kunlun. In essence, Kunlun came to represent the mythic west of China, the local equivalent of Mount Olympus, a peak that is both real and fabulous, hosting an entire pantheon of gods and immortals, a meeting point between mortals and celestial forces. Woven from threads of history and fantasy, the mythology of Mount Kunlun brims with astonishing stories of gods, immortals, and supernatural events. Kunlun is often envisioned as a place where heaven meets earth, an axis mundi, whose summit is said to be occupied by the heavenly emperor himself. According to belief, the throne of the supreme deity, Jade, lay at the mountain's topmost terrace, in the so-called Palace of Heaven. Kunlun was seen as a stairway to heaven. Any mortal, courageous and pure enough to climb to its peaks, would be instantly transformed into an immortal spirit. The idea that the mountain's apex continues into the celestial realm underscores Kunlun's sacred character, the bridge between worlds where a human might achieve immortality if deemed worthy. The most renowned inhabitant of Kunlun is Mu, the Queen Mother of the West. In antiquity, this goddess was depicted as a wild being with tiger's teeth and a leopard's tail, a mistress of plagues. Later, however, myth transformed her into a graceful sovereign, guardian of immortality. Her residence, set on the mountain's western flank, was a magnificent palace, protected by golden ramparts, gleaming like the setting sun. Behind those legendary walls, the Queen Mother hosted paradisiacal feasts for the immortals, spread along the shores of the Lake of Gems. Legend describes unheard-of delicacies served at these divine banquets: bear paws, monkey lips, and dragon livers, enchanted dishes meant only for celestial beings. In her palace garden grow the most precious trees in the universe, the peach trees of immortality, whose fruits grant unending life to those who taste them. It is said these peaches of longevity ripen extremely rarely, once every 3,000 years or even 6,000, according to some sources. Only upon completion of the sacred cycle does the Queen Mother invite her heavenly guests to the Peach Festival, a sumptuous banquet celebrated with music, dancing, and elixirs, to share the fruits of eternity with the gathered gods and heroes. One old story from the classic novel, Journey to the West, even recounts how the Monkey King stole these divine peaches, a mischievous feat that caused chaos in heaven and underscored how coveted the gift of immortality was. Around the Queen Mother of the West, an entire retinue of immortal beings revolves. The 8 immortals, Ba Xian, legendary Taoist heroes, were often imagined arriving at Kunlun riding on clouds, dragons or magic cranes, to pay homage to the goddess and participate in the celestial banquet she offered. This image, of the queen borne on a phoenix and greeted by immortals on the mountain's heights, became a frequent artistic motif depicted in traditional Chinese paintings and carvings. In addition to Mu, Other important deities are found on Kunlun. Yu Shi, the Lord of Rain, has his abode on the mountain's slopes, from where he dispatches life-giving clouds over the world. On the highest peak, according to the classic of mountains and seas, Shanhai Jing, stands an altar of ancient shamans, 6 sacred sages, including one called Wu Peng, who hold the herb of immortality there. Moreover, later Daoist traditions portray Kunlun as truly a paradise of the Xian, enlightened humans who achieved immortality and live reclusively here under the Queen Mother's aegis. It was believed these adepts came and went at will, flying on the backs of cranes or dragons, free from the bonds of ordinary mortals. The realm of Kunlun abounds in fantastic fauna and flora, emphasizing its Eden-like nature. Its slopes were said to be populated by white tigers and tiger-featured creatures, symbols of the West, guarding the paradise's borders. Among its valleys and cliffs, one could glimpse deer and cranes of millennial age, animals considered symbols of longevity and immortality, often accompanying immortals in legends. The Queen Mother Shiwangmu herself is often described with a spotted deer as a pet, signifying her benevolent nature. In the pure air of the heights drift azure birds, Qing Niao, the goddess's divine messengers, of whom poets claim they brought inspiration to the chosen, carrying heavenly tidings into the hearts of receptive mortals. The vegetation on Kunlun is equally astounding. Sources speak of trees of jade and pearl, of a tree of life bearing miraculous fruits, and of multicolored magical fungi that grow only on this sacred mountain. Indeed, on Kunlun, every flower and creature takes on otherworldly qualities. Everything exists in a divine harmony, bathed in an eternal light, untouched by the decay of time. Mythology situates numerous fabulous events on Kunlun. Here take place heavenly banquets, miraculous transformations, and visits by daring mortals. This paradisiacal mountain left its mark on Chinese culture, being mentioned in both classical and popular literary works, from the poems of Chu Yuan in antiquity to the fantastic novels Legend of the White Snake or Journey to the West. All make at least a passing reference to majestic Kunlun. Each legend contributes to the mountain's aura of mystery and sanctity, reinforcing the belief that somewhere, in the far west, there is a place where heroes can attain immortality and gods walk the earth. Although Kunlun exists primarily in the realm of myth, tradition attributes to it the features of a paradisiacal civilization with achievements and order beyond mortal capability. In this city of immortals, there is no hunger, disease, or war, only abundance, knowledge, and eternal peace. It is said that on Kunlun's heights, the climate is always mild and pleasant, and the gods and sages who reside here live in harmony, far from the turmoil of the lower world. Legends speak of mysterious cities hidden among rocks and valleys, where former gods and heroes of antiquity have retired to enjoy the tranquility of eternity. Popular imagination describes architecture and gardens not of this earth. Palaces of jade and gold, raised on high terraces and bathed in the light of sunset. Plazas and courtyards paved with sapphire stones. Crystal-clear lakes and pavilions adorned with divine carvings. An imperial screen from the Qing dynasty, for example, depicted the western paradise on Kunlun, glistening with enchanted mountains and valleys, blue seas, hanging terraces and ethereal pagodas, against which the Queen Mother arrived on a phoenix, greeted by a retinue of immortals in a fairy tale scene. Such artistic renderings hint at the grandeur of the celestial architecture as imagined by mortals. Alabaster columns, gateways to heaven, and suspended gardens where every element of nature is elevated to the level of sacred art. A remarkable aspect attributed to Kunlun's civilization is the vast knowledge and spiritual power its immortal inhabitants are said to have acquired. It was rumored that the Immortals of Kunlun amassed over time enormous quantities of esoteric books, magical artifacts, and alchemical formulas. In their mythical library would lie the secret of the elixir of immortality, of aligning the stars, and of the great mysteries of heaven and earth, a trove of sacred science inaccessible to ordinary mortals. There, Taoist masters and shamans were said to study the art of immortality and the secrets of the universe. Indeed, myths say certain chosen shamans could spiritually travel to Kunlun to learn rituals and receive wisdom directly from the immortals, then bring that knowledge back to the world of humans. Kunlun was seen as a divine academy, a site of spiritual pilgrimage where sages attained enlightenment. Hence emperors, alchemists and pilgrims in ancient China dreamed of this initiatory journey. The daily life of Kunlun's immortal inhabitants is imagined as full of art, celebration, and contemplation. In the paradise's plazas, instead of mortal merchants, one might envision sages conversing about the harmony of the cosmos, gods and immortals exchanging poetry and arcane knowledge. There were, according to legend, also ceremonial duties. For example, the aforementioned Peach Festival, where all the immortals gathered periodically. This event can be seen as the equivalent of divine Olympic Games or assemblies of the gods, strengthening the cohesion of the paradisiacal society. It was also believed that the immortals practiced refined arts, the music of the spheres, the ritual dance of graceful jade maidens, and strategic games like Wei Qi, Go, to sharpen their minds in eternity. In the vast gardens of the Queen Mother, celestial attendants such as the Blue Bird delivered messages and offerings, while alchemists prepared golden elixirs and incense brought from the stars. Beyond fantasy, the influence of the Kunlun myth on real Chinese culture was significant. Temples and shrines dedicated to the Queen Mother were erected at various lakes and mountains, one example being the temple on the shore of Lake Heihai in the actual Kunlun range, identified by locals with the goddess's Jade pool. Emperors held rituals at solstices and equinoxes, invoking Kunlun's blessing for the empire's prosperity. Poets and artists, from Chu Yuan in antiquity to the poet-emperor Mao Zedong in modern times, who wrote a poem titled Kunlun in 1935, found inspiration in this symbol of cosmic grandeur and the dream of immortality. One could say that, in socio-cultural terms, the foremost achievement of Mount Kunlun was its power to unify the imagination and values of a people for millennia. It provided a spiritual axis around which rituals, artworks, morality, and collective aspirations were built. Unlike real cities, a mythical realm like Kunlun does not vanish into tangible ruins, but rather gradually fades from the horizon of mortal worlds. Chinese traditions offer both metaphorical and quasi-historical explanations for why today no one can set foot in the paradise of Kunlun. One cosmogonic tale suggests that, once upon a time, heaven and earth were joined by sacred pillars and ladders, mountains, trees, or columns that allowed free communication between gods and humans. However, as mankind strayed from the divine order, the gods decided to destroy these links of connection. The heavenly ladder was cut, the pillars that upheld the sky were cast down, and heaven was forever raised beyond the earth. This cosmic rupture, equivalent to humanity's expulsion from paradise in other cultures, explains why Kunlun became inaccessible. The direct connections between the human world and the realm of the gods were broken, and the gate to paradise closed. Even so, the legends did not stop at an allegorical justification. They placed tangible obstacles in the path of mortals, meant to guard Kunlun from uninvited eyes. At the foot of the mountain flows the famous weak river, Ruo Shui, an enchanted stream whose waters can support no boat or living being. The liquid is so light and insubstantial that any attempt to cross it is doomed, for travelers sink as if through air. In addition to this, magic water stretches the accursed region of moving sands, a wandering, treacherous desert, described as perpetually shifting, like a drifting dune sea that swallows anyone who ventures beyond the border. The combination of weak water and moving sands forms a natural defensive ring at Kunlun's base, an unseen moat and wall of the divine citadel. Only those versed in magical arts, powerful shamans or Taoists with supernatural abilities could, according to legend, overcome these obstacles and find their way to the paradise. For the ordinary person, Kunlun thus became invisible and unreachable, protected by the will of the gods. There are also historical, geographical approaches attempting to explain Kunlun's loss. In antiquity, as expeditions expanded, the Chinese pushed the supposed location of the mountain ever farther west, never truly finding it. Some placed it in the northwest, others south of the Western Sea, even at the center of the earth. Signs of the uncertainty and symbolic nature of these accounts. With each new map and each tribe explored at the fringes of the known world, the mysterious Kunlun seemed to retreat further. It was even speculated to identify it with real mountain ranges like the Hindu Kush or the Kunlun Mountains in Xinjiang, but nothing concrete ever confirmed the existence of the literal paradise. Countless adventurers tried to find it, but to no avail. Chinese emperors, who once sent envoys by sea to seek the island of Penglai, also looked westward, hoping to discover the sacred mountain, yet the legend remained a legend. As one modern account notes, it is a legendary land that many have tried to locate, but so far, no one has succeeded in finding the mythological place. If it truly exists, it has remained hidden from mortal humans. Thus, Kunlun gradually disappeared from real geography and survived only on the mythical map. Some contemporary scholars point out that the Kunlun myth did not so much decline as it transformed and merged with other concepts over time. In later periods, Chinese mythology borrowed ideas from India and Central Asia, associating Mount Kunlun with Mount Meru, the five-peaked cosmic mountain of Hindu and Buddhist cosmology, considered the axis of the universe. In this process, Kunlun became more a universal symbol of the world's center and paradise than a precise physical location. In other words, once the horizons of knowledge expanded and real-world maps were charted, Kunlun retreated into the hearts and minds of people, remaining present as an idea and ideal. Its disappearance is not a collapse like that of Atlantis, but an ascension into the realm of myth. Kunlun endures not through ruins, but through stories, art, and belief. Looking back at Mount Kunlun, this fabulous axis mundi of Chinese culture, we realize it was more than a legendary place. It was an eternal symbol of human aspiration, the desire to reach the heavens, to live in harmony with the divine, and to transcend the limits of life. Kunlun's legacy is felt throughout Chinese history and spirituality. Its legends unified generations, inspired emperors and poets, and shaped religious rites and works of art. Even today, the name Kunlun evokes mystery and reverie. We find it in modern poems, in fantasy novels, and even in international pop culture. From Mao Zedong's verses to allusions in comic books and video games, a sign that the fascination for this myth remains alive. In conclusion, although Kunlun cannot be located on any contemporary map, it continues to exist on a higher plane, as part of humanity's imaginative heritage. The legendary mountain of the Immortals reminds us of our thirst for knowledge and immortality, of the need to believe in something beyond ordinary life. Its story, with beginnings in the mists of time, with a golden age of gods and immortals, and with its mysterious disappearance, invites us to dream and forever seek the lost paradise. And as the sun sets in the west, our minds inevitably turn toward the horizon. Beyond the gilded clouds, Mount Kunlun perhaps still gleams, untouched, waiting for some brave and pure soul to find its hidden path among the stars.